Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of PM Talks, the Project Management Talks podcast that we have started. Hi, I'm Sujeet Pathak. I'm a Senior Product Manager at Amoeboids Technologies. We are a startup from India and we are a Atlassian Platinum Marketplace partners. In this podcast series, we have introduced you with various project managers in the past, and we have spoken about the project management as a stream, as a career path, and what are the challenges that they face in this series so far. Today, we have a special guest. We have Mr. Piotr Biegun. He's from Poland, and he's a alliances and partnership director at Git Protect in Poland. He has a career of around more than a decade in various industries, in various leadership roles across various streams of the industries, and so it's really important and really nice to have him in today's episode, so that we can hear from some diverse experiences that he had working across many projects in different companies that you have worked with. So hi Peter, thank you so much for joining us, and we are really glad to have you on board today. Are you excited for this?
Yeah. So I'm ready. So thanks for having me here. So just a quick introduction. Yes, I'm responsible for partnership and alliances at Git Protect. Git Protect is part of Xopero Software. We specialize in data protection. So basically, we help you to automate backup and disaster recovery for different kinds of stuff you have. So endpoints, virtual machines, servers, or Office 365. I focus on Git Protect, which helps you to protect your DevOps tools like GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket, and Jira. So basically, when there is some kind of outage or you have compliance needs, you could automate backup and disaster recovery processes with us. We are on the market for 13 years. We work globally, 50 countries, 1 million protected devices, 100,000 customers. So what I be sharing today, it's like Suji mentioned, it's my 12 years of experience working for different kind of companies, different industries, starting from really small, ending on large enterprise projects. So yeah, let's start.
That's great. That's great. So let us begin with my first question to you, Peter. Tell us a bit about your journey so far. In this career of more than 10 years so far, how it started, and how it has been so far.
Yeah. So my career is, I think, very specific because I love IT, I love math, and in college I decided that I would go to different studies than typical IT engineers. So I didn't went to the Polytechnic. I went to university, economic university, where I was studying IT and econometrics. And the things I learned, the first day at the university was, guys, this is very special part of university, because you will, after finishing 5 years of study, you'll be able to understand people from IT, from business, from legal, and from science. So you'll be able to communicate with those people, and you'll be able to understand them, and use technology to move forward. And this is my story. So basically, I started early on that deciding I want to be in the IT, but to understand what I like to do, it's it's a little bit tougher questions, and I think it took me around 10 years. 10 years, yes. And what I do, it's right now, and what I specialize is tech partnerships. So basically, how to use working with other company, to speed up your business. So it's always talking about not only some kind of business arrangements, business terms, but also how to integrate and how to make sure that things you're doing together works for both sides. Yeah. So that's a story. That's a story of me. So in the past, I delivered more than 100 different projects. So starting from simple website, ending on large mobile apps, or even strategic UX, UI, projects which I did for a large banks in Poland, or I was working in IKEA, so and yeah.
Peter, thanks for that detailed explanation. I also see you have had an experience of a founder. You had your own startup, I guess. So, would you like to share anything about that experience?
Yes, it's a tough way, and it's not for everyone. It's
Right.
for sure. It's like what startups gives you, it's agility and also responsibility. It's like if you, it's a way you could learn very fast. Really, it's like in 1 year you are doing probably more stuff, and you are touching different areas than in typical work, because you just focus on a very narrow part of processes. So this is a great way to learn from my experience. So if I could do this once again, I will start with some more experience in the corporate world, because it helps you in the future. So it's great to be a young founder, but it also means that you need to learn everything on your own and using your own money if you don't have investors. So it's it's not always possible. Yeah. So we just need to be honest here. It's a great way to develop as a person, but still there are also consequences of choosing this way. And it's not for everybody.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But I really agree with you. Like, it helps you to develop as a person in a great way. Founding your own venture and building it like your own child, and it's really a great experience always to have.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you have worked on 100+ projects in this span of 10 years. I would like to start with, like, what has been your favorite project so far, that you have handled, and what are the key lessons you had from that project?
Yeah, so I have few in my mind, and it's like one of the project I really have in my heart. It's a mobile app called Kupony. So it's a couponing service here in Poland. When I started to work with guys, there were 4 or 5 people startup, 10 years ago, and we work with them on mobile app for Windows Phone. So our app, when we released the app, we increased the number of users 2 times in just few weeks after the release. And right now they are market leader in the Poland and in other countries, in the CE region. So this is the story I like. So it was one of the first projects I was doing, and with real impact. I also have experience, in some SaaS and B2B products. So I work at Booksy. It's a booking platform for beauty services. From Poland, or Hotelers, which is a place where you could book your business travel without a hassle. So it's so what I like in those projects is that they had traction. So everything you were doing has effect, and you could have you could choose different solutions, and you test those solutions. So it was a living organ. So and recently I moved to more to the DevOps and dev tool space, and it's closer to my heart. This is what I like, and this is why I like Git Protect, because it's a tool for tech people. It helps you solve a problem, and it's like we spin off this product 1 year, and we are seeing growth like 20-30% per month to month. So it's the developing very fast, and this means that we need to do a lot of stuff very quickly and take tough decisions, where to focus, where to put our resources. And for me, learning from this experience is that I have few things that could be interesting, to rethink when you're doing projects. So basically, in the place we are, data are very important. It's like
Right.
you need to take a decision. Yeah, you need to understand the context. It's when you have running, running application with users. Every decision ends in some kind of result, and it could be look good or bad.
Okay.
And to take the right decisions, you need to have data. And it's sometimes it's not possible to have data, but you need to be aware of that there could be some consequences, and you need to take those decisions quickly.
Okay.
It's even if you don't have data. So this is what I saw. It's like sometimes I have been in situations that taking decisions, was just too long, and the train you could hop in were passing by, and there often could be unpleasant consequences. And even if you don't have data, you need to take decision fast, and to take those decisions, even if you don't have data, you need to be aware that this is some kind of unknown. And this is connected really with my background. I was studying econometrics, so a lot of math. Yeah, we are doing machine learning models on paper. So yeah, this is story of my studies.
Okay.
After 2 years, they let us use Excel. So big progress, but basically, I think in project management, data and context, it's important, and sometimes you find a solution to the problem you're trying to solve in, I don't know, one feedback from the customer. So very qualitative data, and what you could only do if you have an insight, you could confirm it with quantitative data. So this is how I work. So what's your experience? So do you have similar situations, or maybe you have different experience here?
Yeah, even I agree with you. Data is very important when you take decisions. And I've been through situations where we had data with us, but somehow we ignored the data, or we didn't study it well. Even if you have data, you should have a knack of finding trends from that data and identify what the data really wants to tell you. So sometimes if you miss out on that part and take decisions based on your own gut feelings only, based on your past experience, sometimes you can go wrong, and then you realize later on in a hard way, this is how it should have been done. So it always helps when you have data and you can find out the context out of that by finding out certain patterns, and then based on that you take decisions. So like you mentioned, I had similar experiences, and I pretty much agree. As far as possible, you should always rely on the data. But if you don't have access to the data enough to take decisions, then you have to follow certain models and identify certain risks, attach some certain risks to different paths that you can follow, and based on that, you need to move forward and take some path out of the available avenues. But yeah, it always helps to have data before you take any decision.
Exactly. So it's always a hard decision if you would like to move, fast and break stuff, or you are in the place that you need to move fast and you cannot break stuff. So it's very hard. I saw even some kind of conversation on LinkedIn about that, and basically I think that it's like you need to move fast, you need to have data, and you need to take informative decision. I think it was term on my study. If I recall this correctly, but basically it's like I think this is what this is my advice. From my experience that helps me move further. And I have two other things I would like to add on top of that. So it's like when you have data, it's connected with the problem you are solving. So you need to know the problem. And what is the end game? So what is the issue? What is the end game? So if you don't know this, you won't be able to deliver a product that solves customer pains and address their needs. And without data, you can't have a good product strategy. And I saw products that were killed because of the wrong product strategy. And unfortunately, it all connects.
And just to elaborate further on that point, it also helps us to decide, like suppose when you are working in a tech and you are building some products and you are building some features in the product, sometimes you go into a mode where you are just becoming a feature factory, like kind of thing. You're just shipping new features every couple of months, and if you don't plan it well, and if you don't make have those things in place where you can measure the usage of those features, and if you can track the usage or track the behavior of your users, especially in the software industry, then it becomes a mindless race to just ship new features and just disregard how people are actually finding it very really good, or they are finding it easy to use those features, they are having some value out of those features. So it always helps, even if you ship couple of fewer features, but you make provisions to measure the usage of existing features. It gives so much data, and it helps you to decide your strategies for the future. So that's also one of the things that one should consider, especially you are working in tech and building on some products.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so anything from your side, to add, because I have on my to-do list communication, because in project management, communication for me, it's important. I think it's more important than data. Data just helps you to communicate, but communication, it's in my experience, and I have case here I could share. So how communication changes result of a project. So anything from your side in communication?
Yeah, so communication, of course, when you are in a leadership role or in a managerial role, you work with many stakeholders, right? So whether it is an internal stakeholder or an external stakeholder, you have internal teams working with you on a project, same project, and then there are some external stakeholders like your clients, your customers, your vendors are out there. And if you are a person who is involved in communicating with each of these stakeholders, especially working on a close group and in a single project, then it adds to a responsibility on your side, that everyone in the project, every stakeholder should be on the same page, and they should be updated with all the updates on regular basis. Otherwise, it adds to a miscommunication or a chaotic situation where everyone is working in a different direction, and now you have a momentous task to bring them all together at the end. So yeah, communication is very key and very important in the life of any product or a project that you handle, especially when you have diverse stakeholders involved in a single project. To talk about communication, even at Amoeboids, luckily we have few apps, Jira add-ons that are live in the Jira marketplace. Yeah. One of our most sold out product is automated release notes, and it actually helps people like project managers or product manager or team leaders to automate their stakeholder communications, be it about the release notes of your software project or any other day-to-day communication, generating reports and from your Jira tickets and then sharing it with all the stakeholders. So we help through that app to project managers or product managers or any manager who is in charge of handling stakeholder communication to generate and automate stakeholder communication out of the data that is there in your Jira tickets. So that's one of the things that I wanted to highlight there.
Yeah, so two things here. So I remember the case when IT team was doing a release during the time that sales team had important meeting. So they were entering the meeting and there was like a white screen. Sorry, maintenance mode, guys. And the whole meeting, that took like 2 or 3 months to set up, was out. And those situations, the lack of communication skills work at every department. So you need to be careful how you. It's like most of the time we don't work with software that it's a life depends on. But still, it's we are using software. Someone is using it. We have different stakeholders, even internal users. So they need to be aware that we are doing something and what we are changing and what is the result and what is the need for it. So release notes, to see, in some products, release notes are very important. And if you don't have them, the users are just guessing what changed. Yeah, but you also mentioned communicating with different stakeholders. I have a story more from a corporate world. When I was working with one of the largest banks, we were working on designing a large platform for some kind of transactions without going into the details. And the platform was already late, around 1 year. And there was a strict deadline due to regulatory changes that it needs to be live by the end of the year. So what we need to do, we need to design the whole stuff, verify it with users, so do the user testing, incorporate all those regulatory requirements, and still make it so fast so the tech team would be able to develop the stuff. And the problem we came, so we are using what I'm using, in my work is I always try to follow up Google Design Sprint, approach. And I'm not very strict with, doing all this kind of stuff, but I'm just following the process and adjusting the process to the situation I am. So basically we have the discovery, we are involving different parts in solving the problem to catch their perspective. And later on, just, to find a best one solution. So when we were during this process in the bank, so they told us, guys, the toughest problem is our compliance. They want, they killed the previous project. So what we did, we involved them from the beginning. We explained, and this was important. In the same room, we have people who were selling the product, tech people for compliance, business owners or business managers of the units, and we just understand what is the perspective, what are the needs, what are the problems. And the funny thing, the guys from compliance, they were proposing solutions, what never happened before. And this helped us, to stick to the timeline and to deliver project on time. So yeah, and everyone was happy. And it was very hard situation because the previous approach, the previous try with this project wasn't successful. And this is what I also like. So I like to work with people from different industries with different experiences, because what they bring to the table, it's other understanding of the same problem or different problems they're addressing. So it's like we work in data protection field. So we know exactly what data protection is. So what are the best practices, how it should be run. But when you talk with developers, they need API to do something. There are two different words. And finding a way to connect this, to put our data protection to their workflow, to their natural way of working, and helping them do their work. This is what we try to do with Git Protect. To make those people aware, and also give them the tool to simplify their work. Yeah. So and basically communication is a key. It's not only with the stakeholders, but also on the team level. If you have different team members in your team, you still need to take care about solving all issues and making clear that everyone knows what's happening. Because without the collaboration, your project. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Peter, I want to divert a little bit now. Look, the last 3.5 years, the whole world has gone through a big change, right?
Yeah.
Coronavirus pandemic has changed the way we work today, and a big transformation has happened in few areas of work. In some industries, they are coming back to what they were, how they were working pre-pandemic situation. Some industries have changed for better now, and they have adopted the hybrid working or work from home in a more natural way now. So how this has impacted your role, in last 3.5 years, and working with remote teams, how it has impacted and how you have managed to cope up this challenge.
Yeah. So basically, as I recall, most of the time I was working, somehow remotely. So it was with the team or maybe with the customers, but for me, it doesn't change, a lot.
Okay.
What is harder is when you have, strategic stuff, or you have very complex problem. It's way harder to solve them over the internet when you compare to meeting, in one room and talking it over the whiteboard with post stickers, post-its, and markers. So
Right.
this I find more challenging. On the beginning, it killed all our go-to-market because everyone, activities, because everyone is focused on solving their own problems. And from my experience, it took us a lot of time, to find a way to build a connection with those people who were typically available on some kind of conference. So building new connections, new relations was particularly hard. And for me personally, it was also hard to learn about some stuff. So basically, when you meet with people, when you talk with them, you always hear something. It always helps you move project, faster. And when you kill this informal communication outside of typical meetings, in the end, you understand that your project was able to move fast because you heard something in the corridor, or on the smoke, or during the lunch. So yeah, so yeah, it was it's a situation that you need to adjust, and I think there are some things that haven't been solved so far. So it's like you have tools like Miro. You could do this, but it's not the same. It's not the same effect. It's not the same effectiveness in my experience. It's helpful. It solves the problem, but still there are some things I love to do in person because they're just better. Yeah.
Yeah, even I tend to agree with you on this. Initially, when it all started, everyone was kind of happy because they get to spend more time with spending with their families. But now, having done this for the last 3.5 years, now most of the people that I interact with, they're of the view like, it's not permanent work from home or permanent work from office. Both are not actually acceptable to the people right now. Most of them want it as a hybrid mode of thing, so that I can just travel to the office a couple of days in a month or more than that, have face-to-face interactions with real people, and then on the rest of the days I can work from comfort of my home. So that's the thing that I think evolving now, at least in this part of the world where I'm working in Pune, here in India. But that's how the things are shaping up right now.
We need social interactions, and it's very hard to do social interactions over the over the screen in your computer. Unfortunately, or maybe even better that we can we don't have this yet.
True. Peter, when you start working on a new project, in the planning phase, what according to you are the key pitfalls that one should avoid while starting on a new project?
Yeah, so for me, it's important to know what is the end goal. So basically what we want to achieve. I don't need to know the way we achieve it. It's like I just need to know, okay, so we are doing something. So what is the real purpose of doing this stuff? So for me, it's also important to have some kind of empowerment. So basically, it's like you are able to take decisions, you have resources, and you have some kind of alignment with your management. So it's no one likes doing projects just to put them in a drawer, and I saw multiple things going that way, and it's not good for people. It's not good for the company. It's always an issue, and those projects are not moving fast. Also, I like to I don't like overcomplicate stuff. but I like to start from like a bigger overview. It's like sometimes it could look like a overcomplicating stuff, but you know, getting this perspective and cutting it like that and focusing what's important, it helps, you know, to deliver stuff and move, you know, iterate from one phase to another. But still there are some what I think changes. Like right now, MVP, the smallest MVP, it's way bigger than a few years ago. It's especially when we talk about software, there are different requirements in mobile apps.
Right.
It's even you know, yeah. So we have so many apps that your MVP, your minimum viable product, it's way bigger than it was in the past because of the competitors, because of standards, of things people are already doing. So you need to deliver really good product. It doesn't need to be big, but to achieve this minimal stuff, it still requires a lot of things to do. And people, what from my experience, this is something, you know, those things are very important, because if you don't know what you are doing, what do you want to achieve, what is the bigger picture, and what is the context of things you are doing, it's easy to make mistakes, and yeah, the whole project, it's just, you know, you're burning resources, your time, and everyone is unhappy, and you cannot move forward. And
Right.
that's not good for anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and one thing, this is very specific from my experience, because I started in a software house in software delivery. So for me, it was very obvious that we are measuring everything. So every minute spent on the customer project, because this is how they were paying us. So we measured everything, and we exactly know how much time we are spending on specific things. And when I moved to the product, I noticed that not many companies are measuring stuff, and you have the situations that you have a project, we have 20% allocated for bug fixes, but when you talk with developers, 50, 70, 90% of the time is spent on maintaining stuff, basically fixing things that are not working at all, and you cannot add any new features because your team is swamped with other stuff. Yeah, so and this is very tough conversation when you have in your project what you should measure, what is your, you know, how to make sure that things you are doing make sense. Yeah. So this is my experience. I don't know what's yours.
Yeah, again, I tend to agree with you. Of course, I had a few different experiences because I worked in my earlier job. I worked in a government kind of a project, and where we were delivering software to the local government here. And when you work with some statutory bodies like state government, there are certain things that are not in your control. So like for when you work with a private client, you can make them aware of certain realities of the real world, but sometimes in the government structure, the things are more rigid. The things don't move in the same way that you want to, in the same pace that you want to move them to. So you have to be patient sometimes working with the, and you have to be, you cannot, there are too many constraints to follow when especially you work with the government. So there are certain laws and certain things that you have to abide by. You can't, have luxury of doing too many experiments there. You have to work in a certain set of constraints. So that's sometimes frustrating to follow with, because there are very little room to experiment, try new things. You have to stick with the thumb rule, things that are mentioned in your requirement documents, and you can't question sometimes. You just have to follow them. So in that scenario, sometimes it becomes a monotonous thing. Just come there and follow what you have been assigned to. You can't question things. But yeah, I have been through such projects, so we had a little different experiences at that time.
Yeah. So it's like if you want to, you need to prevent, scope creep, change requirements. So it's like my approach to this. It's and open communication. And it's like, okay, everything could change, but there is a cost of doing that change.
Right.
So basically, we are happy to deliver a new feature, but this means we'll be doing this, and that. Are you okay with that? It's really that important that we could skip this? And this is changing everything. And this is the simplest answer: open communication and telling what are the consequences. And if the business wants to change that, not an issue. It's your decision. You are taking responsibility for that. But the consequences are that if you're, and sometimes it's just, accepting some kind of risk. It's on the business side how you accept the risk and how much you want to pay, for accepting this risk. But still, for me, it's the only way to make this like I think that could work for everyone. Yeah, I can't find from my experience other things that are universal. Open communication and understanding. Yes, sure, this is the result. Are you accepting this or not?
So one important takeaway for me, whatever you explained right now, is when you start on a new project, you should be well aware of the what part of the project, so what you are trying to achieve, what is the end goal. But how part of this can be a little bit flexible thing, as you can explore that thing as you move on, and always maneuver your resources accordingly. Having said that, there are sometimes situations like you anticipate certain goals, milestones to be achieved in certain time span within your project. But when you actually start working on that, you realize certain uncertainties that were not realized when you begin with the estimations. So you have to put in some extra resources, or certain divergence happens and the timelines are affected. So how, as a project manager or one who is in charge of managing things there, should tackle this kind of a scope creeps and make sure that you still achieve the deadlines, you still within the agreed deadlines?
It's tough question. It's tough question because I think that everyone is limited with resources,
right.
And it's like you need to take tough decisions. It's like, okay, we could change that. That means that we won't deliver other stuff, and I can't find other answer here or any other advice. It's easy to say yes, we deliver, but in the end, it often ends in over promise. So you are late with releases, the stuff are not working, etc., etc. So it's like this is always some kind of limitations we have. It's very hard to find a good way to manage everything, but making obvious for everyone. It's like, okay, we have very large project we need to deliver, but we need to touch a very core part of our system. That means, guys, that we could destroy this, and this. So we don't have another option. So are we really sure that we want to start this project? Yeah, and I think it's all about agility and making sure that you making small steps. So divide stuff into small parts, deliver them, validate if they are things that they should be, and communicate with our stakeholders. So basically making sure that everyone is on the same page and understands what you are doing. And it's most of the people don't understand why IT work. It's challenging. It's super simple to write just few lines of code. It's not true. It's not true. It's never easy to add few lines of code. So we all have had the situations where adding one line of code took a few hours, because understanding where to add those few lines of code, it decides if your product works or not. And, so it's so I don't like, overpromise stuff. It's always, a chance that something could go wrong, but we are going back to the point about communication.
Communication. That's what I would.
Yeah.
I was actually going to speak about, like, everything again, like at the end boils down to the communication. The more honest and on point communication you have with your stakeholders, it always helps in the long run. And it also I also recall one line or one quote that one of my engineering managers with whom I worked in the past always used to tell, that his funda being successful engineering manager is always under promise and over deliver, instead of over promise and under deliver. So he always tried to follow that one thumb rule for his team.
Yes, but we always work in the situation where we are pressured to do more, and it's a very hard situation to manage. It's the expectations, it's not so easy, and this is where experience can save you, basically. Because you know that, yes, we could change that line, but that means yeah, I think this is it's super hard, because we will be always on the high speed doing stuff, multiple stuff, and you need to connect multiple dots, and this is very hard about managing projects, especially if you need to take care about the business technical stuff, and as you mentioned, the regulatory stuff, administrative stuff. So basically you are working in an environment that is very specific, and the context, it's not so pleasant, it's heavily regulated, and there are no way of doing quick workarounds.
Right. Okay, Peter, one last question before we wrap this up. When you are in a leadership role, in a managerial role, you are working with different stakeholders, you are working on multiple things parallelly. So you have to manage your time accordingly, you have to manage your stuff, focus on the important things first. So how do you do this? Is there any tool that you use for your personal productivity? Any tools that you would like to suggest?
Yeah, so basically every time I start a new role or a larger project, what I like to do is to understand the place I am. So I often go to the conference, like industry conferences, to understand the jargon, get to know people, their problems, how they communicate, what is important for them. It's like, even if I'm in the dev tool space, it's like there are so many different areas that you could touch, and they're totally different things they are touching, that you need to understand very specific stuff about doing this and this. What also helps me, it's having some kind of data. So I like to dig into into the qualitative data, and later on confirm my findings on quantitative data. So basically I like to read, and especially if you have a live product, customer feedback. I like to talk with people from other departments, because you hear stories that are in different places. So it's simple stuff. You are adding online payments to your tool, and it's touching everyone, because it's not only technical work and product work, but also you have a sales team, you have accounting, you have, I don't know, maybe some kind of licensing system. It's super complex stuff, and it engages the whole company, and it's not easy. And I like to have processes and a place where we could talk about the same data. So it's super helpful to know how to run some stuff. It's especially for people who, who are not so open, not so, or maybe who could be shy,
Right.
but, to move forward if you don't have specific things in place. So processes, but not over processing stuff. This is what I'm looking. Also, as I mentioned, talking about the same data and making sure that everyone understands them. Understands them. This is what I like to do, and I think I believe that helps communicate, because when you talk about the same stuff, you could understand better, and it's easier to talk about KPIs, the end goals on some kind of stuff. So one of the things it's like OKRs, yeah.
Right.
This is how they help. So it's not like a task; it's a goal.
Good.
Where it in the end, it doesn't matter really if you achieve this particular goal. It's it's super important, but it's just a way you structure your work. If you are able to structure your work and making sure that everyone understands this, even if you make 50% of your target, it's still probably way better than you are working without your without those kind of structure. And I think that putting this is very hard to do this, to put everyone on the same page, to make sure that they understand and they are moving in the same direction. It's like we have total conflict of interest when we talk about different departments. They have different goals. They need to be aligned, and it's from the management perspective. It's super important to make sure that everyone understands and they can do what the best what they are doing to achieve the same goals. Yeah.
Right. Interestingly, I know the OKRs definitely is a very powerful framework, and if it is implemented in the right way and right spirits, we at Amoeboids, we have another application called Amoeboids, where we help companies to adopt the OKRs and align them with their day-to-day Jira tasks and help them measure the progress on their key results and objectives based on the work that they are putting in, logging into their Jira tickets. So that's another add-on that we have in the marketplace. Having said that, Peter, it was wonderful talking to you, and we touched upon many important topics around the project management as a whole. So we started with the importance of data, and then we focused quite a bit time on the importance of a good, honest, and clear communication within the stakeholders. And you also talked about other things, that challenges that one can face while starting on a new project and maintaining the scope of the project while you move along. So again, thank you so much, Peter, for this wonderful session, and I hope you also enjoy this.
Yeah, thank you for the session. Thank you for having me here, and I hope that things I shared could be useful, because you never know. Maybe I'm talking bullshit, but I hope not.
Definitely. I think it will be really interesting and important insights for anyone who is following project management or just entering into the stream of project management. So having said that, let me stop here. So to the audience, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will definitely like to see you in the next episode of this podcast series. Do follow us on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Also, you can follow Peter on LinkedIn. He's very active there, and he always keeps sharing his insights on different topics there. So
yes, and from my side, so if as we talk about the tech stuff, so basically things we are putting in cloud, they need to be secure. So please remember that everything you keep in the cloud need to be protected. So go to gitprotect.io and see how we could help and save your time. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you everyone for joining us. See you in the next episode.
Yeah.